So hi everyone, it's Chantal.
And Susan, and welcome to Pairings on the Introverts Corner with our special guest, Philip William Stover.
Yay!
Thank you both so much for having me. As you said, I'm Philip William Stover, and I'm the author of this book, which I don't know if it's backwards or not for you guys.
No, it's good.
It looks good. Yeah, I can see it clear. Yeah.
It's usually like this. And it's called Hideaway Inn. And it came out this summer.
And it's so good. And this is the book that we're talking about, and Pairings, which, and let me tell you, this was a great book. As I was reading it, I was like, oh, I'm hungry.
There's a lot of food in this book. One of the characters is a chef. So there are definitely many scenes of preparing food and how people use food to kind of show love and caring. And that happens a lot in this book.
Yeah, it's a really, and I loved Tack and Vin. I want to call him Vincent or Vinny or like, you know, like.
Yes. People get, and naming is an important part of the book because people really want to be called in their name. It's a very important thing.
Yes.
As a professor who works with many, many students, is the thing that I spend the most amount of time with at the beginning of the semester, like the first week. I always now, because we can get rosters with students' pictures on them before classes start, I always try to memorize students' names before they get there and work with their pronunciation guide. And I think they really appreciate when they walk in and I'm like, hello, Carol, or and they're always sort of surprised, but it also makes them know, oh, we're taking this seriously, I see.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. That's really important.
Yeah, I think so too.
And it was like, I loved how, one of the things I really liked about this book was I loved how we really saw how these two characters evolved through just they're talking about their past together and just that high school. I mean, high school is so tough. But it really affects us so much. And just I don't know, I just loved how I felt like, Vincent went one way and Tack went the other, but yet they came together fine. It was really
yeah, Vinny's a character who really sort of creates a persona that is determined by how he was treated as a kid,
right.
Which we all do in lots of ways. And I was really interested in this character who creates this persona that's never going, that he thinks is armor to protect him from being treated how he was treated as a kid. And what happens is that armor starts to stand in for who you really are. And we all have moments where it's like, oh, I'm this type of person, so I act this way. And then there's a moment where you're like, oh, am I? Or is that just what I've always done?
Right.
And how that kind of covers, and how love and romance can help you uncover that to find out who you really are and what's important.
Yeah. And what I thought was really interesting is because I felt like as high school kids, I really felt like Vinny was kind of the more evolved, like, and kind of truer to himself. But he, like you said, because of how he's treated, he kind of closed in. Whereas Tack wasn't, he really didn't seem like he knew who he was. And as he grew older, he was more open and, and like, this is who I am. So it was an interesting, I felt like it was almost like a role reversal for the two.
Yeah. I mean, I really wanted to write a book about as the experience of being a gay man and like the issues that were, struggling for me as I found love as a younger person. And I think that this idea of passing that's in the book is really important, that like Tack is always able to pass. Like there's never an issue about anyone thinking he's othered or gay or bi or whatever. It's never an issue. And it gives him a type of freedom. Whereas Vinny is not able to pass as a kid and creates a person who only passes and how those two roads, as you say, sort of converge but also separate. And as a gay man, it's like most of the gay men I know, at least my friends, have an ability to pass. I used to be in commercials when I was in graduate school, and it would be like I could pass for 30 seconds. Like for 30 seconds, I look like the guy sitting on the couch. You know, I come from New Jersey, so I can order calzone or I can get something manicotti or something like that. But like I can do that for about 30 seconds. And everyone I know has a way of interacting with the world that is protective like that. Like if I go to order something at Home Depot, I have a shield up, and I wanted to write about how that shield can become a shield from the world.
When I was reading it, I just like the first thing I was making little notes because I knew we were going to be talking about this. And actually I finished reading it like 2 weekends ago, and I was like, I cannot wait to talk about this book. And it's like, he has these shields in place, he's hiding. So even though he has this persona where he's this very alpha, in control guy, and he's got people that, he snaps his fingers, they get things done for him. It's just the way that you craft this persona that just like you said, you know how to act in certain situations. And then it's hard to drop that even around people especially around people that, like when Vinny was so vulnerable in high school and TAC, and he opened up about the books he was reading and that whole magical summer of him talking about the books with TAC. And then now he's this, when he first went back into the bookshop, which I want to live in that bookstore, that I want to have tea with Tula and I want to be there. And when she's asking him what he's reading, and he's just like, I'm not really doing that anymore. And I was just kind of like, I identified with that because I was that kid in high school that read all these books and my friends didn't. And you can't really talk about that stuff. And then you do it's almost like you shed part of your passion and your true self to blend in better. And it's just like my heart broke for him. And I'm just like, no, go read, go pull it back in. But you do. I want to hug high school Vinny so much. And then grown up Vince, just like, yeah. So.
And this is part of, he has to shed all that to be safe in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a beta reader who, a good friend who reads my books and is like, oh God, your characters all want to be safe. And I'm like, well, yeah, when you grow up gay, it's funny, but the gay people I talk to about this are like, well, yeah, that's like we all, the desire for love and the desire to be safe are always tied together. And in the next book, it's like there is an undercurrent. It's a very different book. There's an undercurrent of the characters want to be safe, and we can't be loved until we feel safe.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. I think all people feel that, and these gay characters definitely feel that a lot. And when his masculinity is really a shell, and he sees that, and it pisses him off because he sees that TAC wears his masculinity so it's like he doesn't think about it.
Right.
He knows his is a shell, and he knows his is all performance.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to, again, like you said, we all want to be safe. We put up these defenses, and defenses are great because they protect us from certain things, and they are great to a point. It's when we keep using them and they actually start to be a detriment to us. And that's where I see Vincent, he's put up these defenses, which he needed to be safe but now they are harming him. And
and that's what Tula says to him in the bookshop. She says, like, you're not scared, but the child part of you is.
Right.
Yeah, and that was really important for me to kind of think about those things in this as a romance.
Yeah. And this is not only is it a great story between Vincent and TAC, but okay, can we talk about Jules?
I love Jules. Oh my God.
Oh my God. First of all, this kid is wiser, which is how, this is so true, isn't it? Kids are always wiser than we are as adults. Just loved you, and all of the all of your characters. They're just so much like I just love every single one of them.
Jules is actually based, although Jules is a child, they are based on my students.
Yeah.
And as someone from a very different generation, I wanted to set up this relationship between Vince and Jules. And, you know, I teach at Urban University, NYU, with students from all over the world and who are themselves at 18 in a way that I was not at 30. You know, they are very secure, many of them, in that way. And I always was thinking about students who came in and didn't do what I did in class, which was, you know, put on that masculinity, protect myself at all costs, make myself fit into the places around me at all costs that were public. You know, if there was ever an opportunity. And these students were coming in and it was like, no, they were doing it as they wanted. And it was so shocking and surprising to me to watch this change from teaching even 10 years ago to today. Like, students, many, not all, many students come in self-possessed with their pronouns and their identities in ways that, like, as Vince is, like, he's shocked.
Yeah.
You know, and he sees, like, he says he doesn't even, I say, like, I don't even know who I would be if I was allowed to be that person all the time. Because I wasn't, you know, I was always trying to protect myself.
Right.
I always have this story, like, I remember even being, and I think I wrote about this on the blog, being in line at a McDonald's and as a kid, and a mother and kid coming over to me and saying, my mom says only girls wear that kind of shirt or something. And I was like 7 or 8, and I was like, really? But I remember thinking, taking that shirt off and ripping it up and throwing it out, even though I loved it. It was like terry cloth and it had these stripes on it. It was super cute. But I remember that. And I was like, I always think, who would that kid be if he was like, screw it, I like my, didn't the kid who doesn't throw out that shirt. Right. And that's Jules. Jules doesn't throw that shirt out.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting that you talk about your students, because I know Susan and I had this conversation with Susan, like I look at my kids who are 11 and 12, and my daughter has like 2 of her very good friends who, you know, I mean, they've known, like the one she's known since kindergarten, the other one since they moved here in 3rd grade. But in 6th grade, which was last year, the one child said, you know, I want to use male pronouns, and the other child is, I'm identifying as non-binary. So, you know, and it's what I found so fabulous with this group of kids. There's about 5 or 6 of them. Is that the other kids were like, okay, like, I mean, it was just like they didn't even blink an eye. Like, it was just like, okay, you know, that's, you know, my daughter came home. And said, this is, you know, this is what's going on. I was like, okay, great, you know, and it's just so, it's so different than like when I was a kid. I mean, we didn't even have, I mean, you know, I felt like we didn't even have the language. But yeah, so it's so wonderful to see the kids that are like Jules.
And I wanted to create a community that had a range of people in it, from, you know, a spectrum of sexualities and different gender identities within this small town.
Yeah, yeah. And well, and New Hope, I mean, we love New Hope. Like, so reading it, I was like, oh, I haven't been to New Hope in a while. I can't wait for the pandemic to be over so I can.
So actually that leads to another question. So we wanted to ask you is, why did you choose to set your series in New Hope?
Well, I mostly live in New York, but we also live in Bucks County, and I wanted to write a small town book, and New Hope just seemed perfect. Like, it's always growing up, it's, you know, it's halfway between New York City and Philadelphia. So it has always had this long history of it. And how I conceived this series was thinking about New Hope, both what I call horizontally and vertically. So I wanted to do something that happened within the same time, but then I also wanted to do historical romance that happens in New Hope in the 50s post-war when people were moving there, in the 70s when there was a very big disco next to the playhouse, something set during that time period. So I wanted to do something that was thinking about that. And I guess I lack a lot of imagination, so I base things in real places because they're
I
easy.
love that, because you can, if you want, I mean, if someone reads your book and they can go to New Hope and they can see the playhouse and they can be like, oh, well, this is where the inn would be, and just like,
and and I base it on a lot of the places that are there, and then I take liberties and do my own thing. And I try to keep in my head how I organize it is I always keep landmarks the same. Mm-hmm. So like the playhouse is the Bucks County Playhouse, and the bridge is the bridge, and the corners and the streets are pretty much where they are. Mm-hmm. But individual shops and peoples and stores, I always change those to make them mine. So like people sometimes ask about that, like, well, if you write about New York City, you don't rename the Empire State Building. It's like it's a landmark.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But you might rename the cafe on your corner.
Right. Yeah. No, I love the setting, and I love the farm and that lake area that they have back there, that like private oasis that like, I just want to go there and,
That's very that's we live in Tinicum, and the trail goes by a river and lake, and that's exactly where I set all that because I walk the dog there all the time.
I love your Instagram pictures that you post of like when you're walking the dog and you've got the beautiful scenery around there. It's very peaceful. So everyone should, I'll put Philip's down below the website, but also like your Instagram link and everything too. So
I'm a very early riser, so I take advantage of really nice morning light.
Nice.
It helps me a lot.
It's beautiful. And can we just talk about your dog? Because like I love him.
He's a good boy.
I was thinking cute. In fact, I always, anytime you post, I'm always showing my husband. I'm like, oh my God, here's Philip's dog. Look, and he, because we think he's so stinking cute.
He is a very handsome, unusual fellow. He looks like he's made of spare parts.
So, I love him.
Half Shar-Pei, so he's unusual looking. He looks like a little man. We always say our little man. A friend of mine left social media for various reasons and then texted and said, oh, the only thing I miss on social media is seeing pictures of her dog. And I was like, that's so beautiful. He's a real character. I don't know what better life there is than to be the dog adopted by two gay men. If there's a better I don't know what it is, but our entire life runs around him. My husband will not, if the dog has fallen asleep on him, it's like, oh, well then forget it. My husband's not going to move because we might disturb the dog. It's like his every desire is met within a moment. There's not even a delay. If we think he might want something, it is provided for him. So, and he's a basset, so we've raised a bit of a stubborn creature, but it doesn't matter. He gets everything he wants. So it's like stubbornness is only as strong as the will of the person not caving in. And we have that. So there's that.
He's adorable. He's, and my husband's not on social media, but I like every time you post a picture of him, I'm like, look, here he is.
He's a special dog.
So he's adorable. So also, you did a video for Harlequin. It was like Home with Philip or something, wasn't it? I felt it was.
We were talking the other day, and I was just like, it's like he hosts a TV show. He's so good on camera.
Well, that's thanks to a lot of editing and a patient camera person that I happen to be married to. I've done a couple of videos for Harlequin. They sort of, were interested in them, and I have some background in video and technology, so it was easy for me to do them. And since we can't really go anywhere, they're around our house, and the dog appears and our blueberries appear. Sometimes my plates appear and other things, but they've gotten a great response, and it's really fun to do them and share things like that with people.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and I told you, like, I want to move in just for the blueberries alone. And the dog, probably, and the dog too. So, yeah.
Blueberries and the dog are big goals.
Yeah. But we can also post the link.
A link to the video too.
Yeah, if you want. We read books and then we think about like what we would pair with the books, like food, drink. And Susan and I don't tell each other what we.
No.
I love surprises.
Until this. So Susan, what did you like? We're gonna do our pairings.
Okay.
Our big reveal, right?
So for my drink, I went back to the bookshop and I made chamomile tea.
Oh yeah.
So this one it's made with just chamomile, and then there's some mint in it. There's spearmint and peppermint. And I'm just thinking that, if I'm gonna go to the inn for lunch, they're probably gonna brew their own with all of these flowers from the local places. So I don't know if you can tip it without spilling on my computer. I've got my chamomile. And then, because when I was reading that scene, I stopped and I'm like, I'm going to go make a cup right now. That way I'm, having it too.
That's great. And that's my favorite tea. Actually, it's from de Manfrère in Paris, where I imagine Tula going. If you've ever been to a tea shop, it's a very beautiful old tea shop. And that was the tea that I purchased there like my first time. And it's the tea every time I go back and get that tea. It's an unusual mix, chamomile and mint.
Yeah.
Excellent choice.
Thank you. And then for my food, I thought Tack might make a salad with local greens for me, with some goat cheese, and then some summer berries. So I've got raspberries and strawberries and blueberries in there. So the goat cheese, I was like, ooh, I haven't had goat cheese in a while when I was reading the book, and I'm like, I gotta go fix that. So
there's a lot of goat cheese in this book. Luckily it has no lactose. Otherwise, there would be a lactose intolerant warning on the book with so much. But it's safe for all, so excellent.
And there is a cute goat in the book too.
Yes.
There is a lovely goat named Paul.
And I love the way they name their chickens with
Yes. There are lots of, interesting animals named odd things in this book. We live next to a rescue farm. So
cool.
We have a lot of unusual animals. We live next to a disabled rooster who can never really tell what time it is. So he will, calling at 3 o'clock. We're like, that's an unusual time for a rooster to crow. So it's like the rooster has lost, I think it's an elderly rooster.
Oh, no.
It's
very confused, but it's a lovely rooster nonetheless.
Oh, I love that. So I did, so for my drink, because I feel like I'm the one who always does the alcohol. So I did, and it's been sitting out, so now it's all wet. I did a Lillet spritzer. So Lillet is a French wine aperitif, and just put a little club soda in, and you want to drink it chilled. I usually garnish it with an orange, but I don't have any oranges. I forgot to get any, so I didn't garnish it with an orange. So it's always, it's one of my favorite summer drinks, actually. Philip, you had me at goat cheese. So, so I did a cheese board. Okay, now this is going to be tricky. Can I lift it?
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's very fancy.
So I have some, I have blue cheese, and I have some goat cheese, and I have honey, and candied pecans, and some apples.
Wow.
The goat cheese that I have, okay, let me tell you, it is blueberry, lemon, and thyme goat cheese. Ooh. So when you eat it, it tastes, oh my God, it tastes like cheesecake. Oh, so good.
Wow.
I have another one, which I didn't put on this board because it didn't, I just couldn't get it to look right. That again is another goat cheese. That's cinnamon. Oh shoot, I forget what it is. It's cinnamon and something else. But again, it's fabulous. It tastes like cheesecake. So yeah, so I was all about the cheese. And as I was doing this, my daughter was down picking at cheese while I was trying to set up my cheese board.
goat cheese is wonderfully versatile.
It is.
You know, and it doesn't have lactose in it, as I understand. And it's a great, actually, there were more goat cheese in it, and I had to go back and change it because I kept turning to goat. I don't know what was going on when I started reading this, but there was a lot of cheese in it. There is goat cheese in the second book also. I don't know what my relationship is to the goat cheese lobby, but their influence is well felt.
Well, there's nothing wrong with goat cheese. I mean, it's all good. Like,
although I think milking a goat is not the most pleasant thing in the world. Not that milking a cow is real Swiss picnic, but but I think milking a goat. I mean, if I had to milk a goat or a cow, I'd choose a cow, wouldn't you?
Like cow. I think cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually milked a cow before.
Oh, I have.
Really? I have not. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Have you too, Philip? You both have?
Oh, yeah, from New Jersey. Like that's state. Your cows everywhere.
I had a cow actually named after me.
I learned so much about you on these episodes.
When I was a kid, we lived in Houston. I've lived all over the place. So I lived in Houston, and so my sister and my parents were separated, and we lived with my dad. And when he would go on business trips, we'd go stay with this older couple that he was friends with. They had a little farm that was like 99 acres, and had cattle. It was their weekend place. There one time, one of the cows was giving birth, and so we got to go out and see the cow being born. So they named the calf after my sister and I.
That's nice.
It was so it was fun, but yeah.
Well, then you'll have to go milk a cow so you can be like the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah. Philip, you said that you ate the last of your tart, that you had
I did make a tart yesterday, so I've got nothing to share. Except I did bring in a tomato from the garden.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, that's nice.
And I know you, Chantal, have tomatoes too from your feeds, but
from my little container, because I live in a townhouse, so we don't have I have and I am not a green thumb, and so my neighbor brought me over seedlings. And she was like, because she was like, do you want some? Because I've got a ton. I'm like, sure. And so I kept saying, oh God, I hope they don't die. I hope they don't die. But yeah, and they're stripy. They're called stripy.
Oh, stripies. Yeah, they're good.
Like, I don't know. Yeah. So I've been, and they've taken off. And so I'm very happy. And I do want to say that I have a little thyme on my cheese board, and that is from my little container garden. My fresh thyme container garden. I feel meanwhile, Philip has blueberries.
An entire.
They just take care of themselves though, so I don't really do that.
Okay, yes. So tell us about book 2.
So book 2 takes place in New Hope, and it's of course, it's called The Seasons of New Hope, and we moved to winter because I wanted to do summer, winter, and it's called The Beautiful Things Shop. The PPE, because it has to be that kind of shop.
Yeah.
It's about 2 men who move into the store. One collects 19th century objects like candlesticks and pewterware and Victorian fans, and the other is selling collectibles like Beanie Babies and Muppet lunchboxes and troll dolls. And
I love it already.
Immediately clash, and they have to figure out how to share the store. And they find out, and this part's based on real places in New Hope. If you remember New Hope at all, on the corner near the bridge is a very old 19th century building and a very modern mid-century bank with lots of cantilever and strangeness.
Right.
And they find out that the bank is going to be demolished, but that the 2 buildings share a support, so that if the bank goes down, the mid-century bank, so does the Second Empire building that's next to it. So they have to work together to work in the shop and save these 2 buildings for New Hope.
Oh, wow. Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
So it's an opposites attract, close proximity kind of story.
And so this is winter, and so you're going to do spring and fall also, aren't you, in this series?
we'll see what happens. I'm so slow. I'm so slow that I don't, I see from our colleagues, who are writing books every other day.
Yeah, I know.
And I always think, wow, it's like, it's like, I can't do that very well. I'm trying to get a little faster, but also for me, I enjoy kind of languishing in the book as a writer. Like, I enjoy sort of having it in my head and not pushing myself to just finish.
Right.
And so, I kind of, I don't think I'll ever be that. I'll never make the 100-book club like that. So like, but what's the point for me of sacrificing that languishing if I, sacrificing that and I guess sales, because that kind of generates it. So I'm sacrificing it to languish in the books. I'm also working on a Love Beyond Boundaries series. There's one out right now about the Galapagos.
Yeah, that was good.
And I am doing some more things about, because we all need to travel. And I used to spend a lot of work time traveling, and we travel a lot for fun. And they're all set in places that I've loved to travel in.
Yeah, that was the thing I liked about the Galapagos, I can't say it, Galapagos book.
One, yeah.
Is I was like, oh God, I really want to go there.
Yeah, that was a trip I took with my husband. One day he called and said, "Are you busy on Tuesday?" And I was like, well, no. And he was like, "Okay, we're going to the Galapagos for 2 weeks." I was like, okay. It's a series of strange events. And in that book, he teaches watercolors on the cruise, which is what my husband did. He taught watercolors
Oh,
cool.
on the cruise. And it was all based on the exact, I took out the itinerary from that trip and put it next to me. I was like, oh, we're on this day. And I went through my pictures of each day. I was like, okay, we saw that and we saw that. So it really was based on the exact experience of teaching a watercolors class on the Galapagos.
Oh, that's so cool. I was wondering when I read it, I was like, because as I was reading, I'm like, he's been here. Like, this is like, he's taken this trip, like.
Yeah, no, everything, like all of that is pretty much verbatim of that trip. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. So, well, so you've got a lot going on. So.
Yeah, and book 2 will be out in January of 2021, and totally wintry.
That's great. Yay, I can't wait.
I know, we'll have to have you back on and talk about that one.
Yeah.
That would be great. And that one also comes out. We're just picking audio narrators now, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, exciting.
Ooh, very exciting. Which those audio narrators make all the difference. I actually was listening to a book and I actually had to stop listening to it because I couldn't stand the narrator.
No, narrators can make a big deal, but also it's like, it's a personal thing. It's like there are some narrators who I see are really popular and I'm like, it's not to taste. It's just like, I don't want, and I guess the narrators I like, people can think are also like, oh, I don't like that. I like a very kind of even read. Sometimes I read things where they're like, I put the cup down. You put the cup down. I like a very kind of gentle read. I'm also such an audiobook person that I started, I don't know how I'm doing this. I'm listening to multiple books at once, which is somewhat insane, I guess. I've read multiple books at once, but I don't think I just started listening to 2 different books now, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Both equally, so I recommend it.
Thank you so much for like we said, you're our first guest.
So if you have no more guests in the future, I know that I've ruined it for everyone else. I will keep looking to make sure there are additional guests. It's like, this is just a one-off. It's like, we can't do that again.
We're actually going to have Jeff Adams next month.
Yes.
Oh, he's wonderful. I mean,
yeah.
That's great. Well, I will make sure to listen and be jealous of that conversation that you're all having, which will be fun.
He should do narration. He's got a voice.
He does.
Yeah.
I was on their podcast and it was such a weird experience on my end. I was the weird one, in that I've listened to their podcasts for many years. And, you listening to a podcast is a very intimate experience where they're in your ear, and I do it when I'm walking the dog. And so when I talked to him live and in person, it felt like I'm sure I was like overly familiar because it felt like someone I knew for a long time and knew very well. And I'm sure he was like, we've just met during this conversation. But it had like all these things I wanted to tell him and ask him and things. It was even more so even than like, you know, you love authors, but it's different than having them in your ear and having conversations with them. So I really worship their podcast, but I also try to keep myself in check.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you both
so appreciate it. And thank you for writing this book. It was such a great book.
Yes.
Thank you. Go out and get the Hideaway Inn. It's fabulous. Yep, sure. Yay. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.